Welcome to this week's edition of Good Books Radio. Audiobooks.com is the cheap underwriter for Good Books Radio, which is produced by UTRGV Media Services for Rio Grande Valley Public Radio. And now here's your host, David Hinojosa.
Welcome to another edition of Good Books Radio. I'm your host this week, David Hinojosa, and today I'll be talking with Mr. Saul Ramirez on his book, The Champion's Game. Mr. Ramirez is a chess coach and art teacher at Henderson Middle School in El Paso, Texas, where he coaches students to win the National Chess Championships in 2015 and 2016. Mr. Ramirez is a former chess champion. Mr. Ramirez, welcome to the program.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Fine. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Now, let's talk about your book. You're a former chess champion, and I read in your book that one of the reasons you ended up playing chess was because of a T-shirt. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in elementary, I joined this summer camp, and well, I had nothing to do, right? As a child over here, living in El Paso in Segundo Barrio, roaming around the streets, and it was a great opportunity to join the chess team, which I didn't know anything about, not moving pieces or anything at all. And our coach offered us a really nice shirt that said Segundo Barrio Chess Club. And being from the hood, right, it seemed like something of a lot of prestige to own that shirt.
Yeah.
And well, the whole point was to stay the whole summer, learn chess, and he would give us that nice shirt. Which, when the summer ended, we never got it because he gave us a shirt that said Roosevelt Elementary, which was the elementary we attended.
I see. And okay, so Roosevelt was the elementary you attended, but you wanted for the T-shirt to say Segundo Barrio, which is...
Oh, definitely, because it was the pride of being from Segundo Barrio that made everybody proud.
And was Roosevelt in Segundo Barrio?
It was, yes.
Oh,
it was in Segundo Barrio. It was in the heart of Segundo.
It just didn't say Segundo Barrio.
No, it did. It said Roosevelt, and it wasn't black with a white logo.
Uh-huh.
It was rather gray with yellow, so it was kind of disappointing. But our coach offered us a trip to the state tournament, which we all got excited because we had never had that opportunity to travel out of El Paso.
Oh, nice. So you also mentioned that chess changed you. How did it change you?
Well, it made me more disciplined. It allowed me to think ahead in life. It allowed me to make a path as to understanding what I wanted to do in the future. And like I said in the beginning, I really didn't know what I wanted. I was just I was always a smart kid, but living in the hood, you really in Segundo Barrio, without money, our goals and achievements as to going to college, that wasn't really possible because we had no money. I remember my mom telling me, you're going to have to pay your own way to school. At one point I told her I wanted to be a doctor, and she was like, I can't afford that. You're going to have to pick something different. And with chess, it allowed me to visualize and see beyond, and it allowed me to dream. Especially when I traveled to the tournaments, and we started seeing how we were just equal as everyone else in our intelligence.
I see. So where do you think you'd be if you hadn't learned chess, or you hadn't gotten involved with the chess club?
Well, if I hadn't gotten involved in the chess club, I really don't see myself doing anything as I am doing right now. I would probably have a minimum wage job, right, with my family and struggling through life. And with this whole visualization and seeing ahead, it allowed me to see different opportunities. It allowed me to take advantage of the opportunities and take risks and be where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I found very interesting in your book was that you envisioned your life almost in chronological order, and you telling your mother, I'm going to graduate from college, I'm going to Vegas, then I'm going to one interview and will land me a job. And you and your wife made that happen. How did you come up with this? And everything happened. So I thought that was incredible. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? It all comes with a plan of chess and the plan of life. Things don't just happen out of nowhere, right? You must always have a plan, and that's one of the things I've learned in chess. I learned about working backwards, or what it's called retrograde analysis. So what you want to do is you want to get a goal first, and then work yourself backwards, reaching that goal. And that's exactly what I did when we entered college. I knew my goal. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I had a son and a wife. So at that point, I knew what my my problems were and how to resolve them. And I knew I had to take advantage of every single little opportunity to get that goal. I mean, sometimes the moves we play in life are not exactly what we want, but it will get us there. So as long as we keep on moving every single day in a slow pace, you will eventually reach that goal, which in chess is a checkmate or a draw, or even if you lose the game, you learn something from that game. And that's what happened with me in life. I mean, I just knew exactly what were the big steps to take. How was I going to get there? I wasn't sure, but everything came into play when it had to happen.
So you had your goal, you had your strategy, you just had to work on the tactics, right?
You just had to walk on the tactics slowly and carefully. Like I said, things come wrong. I mean, as you're going, just like a game of chess, you lose pieces, you gain pieces, and you have to get back in track.
Absolutely. Now, you also mentioned that your entire life was all preparation for that one interview at Henderson Middle School. You got the job, but is there anything that you would have done differently?
Anything that I would have done differently?
Yes.
As to getting the job?
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, no. There's nothing I would have done differently, and the reason being is I feel things happen for a reason. And if I was supposed to have the life I had to the moment, and study what I needed to study to be in that place, and that's what ultimately led me to being to teaching these kids and having this great story to tell them. And showing them as a role model as to who I am with all my mistakes and everything I've done. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I feel our chess club works, because they see we're authentic. I'm authentic. They've seen my struggles. They've seen my mistakes, and they see it's doable.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also mentioned that you would cross to JuArez to play chess with other people in JuArez. Mm-hmm. Are there many people in JuArez who play chess?
Oh, absolutely. I can honestly tell you some of the best players are found in JuArez and in Mexico. And as to right now, we're trying to get some of those players to come down over here, since our students don't go over there because of the violence and the insecurity. Yes. But back then in the day, I would travel very often. They would host tournaments in La Presidencia right here across the border. And whoever won the tournament would win an amount of money. I believe it was $50, which was more than enough for the week so we can eat something and have something.
How interesting. And how often would you go? Would you go every week or twice a week?
Honestly, in high school, we would do it every day. We would. Wow. I was in wrestling, so I would do wrestling, and right after wrestling, I would go. Me and my friend Ignacio, we would go every single day to practice in the club called El Caballo Dorado that a good friend of ours that just passed away, Carlos Nevares, would manage. So that's where we learn most of the tactics and techniques and everything we know. And that's where we applied a different style of playing, because everybody has a different style in every state. And going to JuArez opened the doors to to a new dimension. And that's when we started bringing in some of the new techniques over here to El Paso.
I see. So you also mentioned that you were an activist by age 16. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was an activist. I was around farm workers here in the border at all time. My father works for the Centro de los Trabajadores Agrícolas Fronterizos with Carlos Marentes. So that allowed me to be part of that movement for a long time, which they were fighting for the rights of the farm workers along with following the traits of Cesar Chavez. And I was involved in a couple of marchas with them, right, promoting their rights and everything as to them. And as up to like the age 16 or 18, that's when I got into my education, and I followed what Cesar Chavez used to say, that you have to become educated to help your people.
I see. So you took that at heart and you went for it.
I did. I found that would be more of a use to get educated and educate more of Latinos, right, rather than being around and marching on the streets, which we still do on a basis, right, but not as often as we used to.
Mm-hmm. Now, talking about education, let's talk about your students, the team, the 2015 team of chess players. You mentioned that applying chess to the students, you taught them to play chess by applying the game to their lives. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. What I did is what I do first in every session of as a year starts. I get to know my students. I get to know them personally as to their concerns, their families. Right? What is it that's allowing them to continue their education, or what's holding them back? Once I learn about that, I teach them about chess, and I start comparing it to their lives. I have a student who precisely wasn't a lot of problems. Mom, dad is not around. So I compared him to an isolated pawn, which is a pawn that's all by himself, and it's very vulnerable to get attacked. But at the same time, a lot of people forget about him, and that pawn can reach the other side of the board and become whatever he wants. And as of right now, that student has actually done very well in school. He's going on to high school. He's getting out of trouble. He's very committed to his education. So it's allowed him to pursue new dreams. And that I do with every student, and I think that's where the success comes in our team. More than chess is are like our motor for them to be successful and understand life. And understand life is not perfect, and it comes with a lot of mistakes.
I see. That is very interesting. That approach that you take. You assess the situation, and then you learn about it, and then you apply it in their
absolutely.
own lives.
And I can tell you, a lot of my good colleagues, we do it the other way around. We teach first, and then we try to see the problem. So that we waste a lot of time by doing that. So we just learn about the problem a little bit, about their community, about what their needs. Then it's easy to teach anything, any subject.
Yeah, it's easier. You become more aware of the approach that you need to take.
Definitely. The approach, and now the students feel like they're actually learning. Because now they no longer have that problem in their head, right? They've shared it with someone else. Or even if they don't share it, sometimes they don't want to tell you what's going on, but they see the importance is there, and you're not just a teacher who's there to teach them a subject or a game, but you're actually there because you care about them.
Yeah. Now, what was the biggest challenge you faced when you were teaching these kids chess?
There was a lot of challenges, a lot of challenges teaching these kids. One, of course, the discipline, like I mentioned. A lot of kids are not used to being in that chess scenario, I want to say, where they have to be sitting down for 2 hours, right, mentally, 3 hours, 4 hours. So that was one of the biggest challenges. Then, of course, the biggest challenge we continue to have is the money, the funds. We don't have the funds for our programs to go out and compete. So we had to find resources. And the city of El Paso, the people of El Paso, our community, was very kind, and they opened their hearts and they opened their wallets to us, and they started pitching in from $1 to $2 to $1,000, and that allowed them to compete. We even had a homeless come to our school, and I think that's the best story we've had. Our homeless came to our school, and he walked up to our secretary and told her, "I don't know the kids. I just want to wish them good luck in their tournament. Here's $20." So at that point, we were blessed that he was there. And we continued. And at that point, we understood, there's no challenge too big for us.
I found that amazing when I read that, that the entire community was behind you all, and they contributed. And I remember that you had a Hail Mary donation at the end where you couldn't reach the amount, or you were short, I believe, $10,000, if I'm not mistaken. And then somebody made that one last donation where you were able to complete that. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. The anonymous donation came in, and we made our goal. However, like you mentioned, we had school principals from every school in El Paso contact their teachers, letting them know about the situation, and they all pitch in. We had our judges from our court here in El Paso contact everybody in their offices. So we had one day we set up at Peter Piper, our local pizza place here at El Paso, and we had our kids, we had our trophies, we had them play with the people, and then they just stop by, and they would stop by with big checks. Here's $1,000 from this company. Here's $1,000 from this office. Here's $500. Here's $200. And we were just amazed how everything was just coming together so beautiful. And at that moment, when we thought $20,000 was a challenge, we didn't know the next year we would face a bigger challenge, which our team grew. And now we didn't have a $20,000, but we had $40,000 we had to come up with.
Oh, wow.
And once again, the city of El Paso, everyone, the community, everybody joined in and helped us out.
So they did it twice. They were They rallied behind you twice.
And they continue doing it. They continue doing it year by year, and it's just beautiful to see all the entire people of El Paso united to help us out.
That is amazing. That was amazing. That was an amazing story. When I read
Definitely.
it, I thought it was very interesting to read about.
And living it, I mean, I can't explain the feelings me as a coach and the kids as students and our principal felt when everybody was just coming together. I mean, our office was flooded with people. And we had a wall thanking everybody, and we had a night with the donation money, and we put it on the El Paso Times. It was everywhere. It was something very beautiful here in the border.
I can just imagine. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the rigorous training that you give them. Could you tell us a little bit more about the process, aside from you assessing and finding the approach, but what the kids actually have to do or endure in order to become competitors?
In order to become competitors, a lot of people have a misunderstanding. Chess is just a board game. You can sit and move pieces, which in reality it can, right? Like the way you play soccer, you can just kick a ball around. But if you want to be good, you have to study tactics. You have to study strategies. You have to study games that have been played in the past, in the present, okay, and what possibilities can happen in the future. And that's exactly what we do in every single practice we have. Our practices go from Monday to Friday from 3 to 5, and Saturdays we do from 8 to 12, sometimes from 8 to 4. Right now we're in summer school, and we're running a summer camp from 8 to 12. So we have those extended hours, and on top of that, when the kids get to go home, they get to take some homework. They can continue practicing. However, that homework is more of a warm-up. So what I do is I give them a homework that's around an hour of chess puzzles and techniques, right? And that's warm up to introduce them to their English homework, to their math homework. So it allows their brain to start analyzing all these different positions. So once they get to their English homework, they're prepared.
I see. That's an interesting approach and very demanding, I would say. But
absolutely. Anyone that's been to our club, to our team practices, they can see why we're so successful. They can see why the other teams are successful as well, and they can see we're not wasting time. And I believe that's where the donations, I believe that's where the support of everyone came in, because they saw how intense it was. And I've allowed people to come into our practice, and everyone's amazed, I mean, how these kids are doing all this thing. And even in the summer, we're taking a different approach. We're going more into the educational part, touching upon history of the different continents in the world. So we're taking a different big approach this year so our program can grow even more.
And also the commitment the kids showed towards the chess club.
You know what? That's something I do find amazing, because besides them having their regular classes,
exactly,
and their regular lives, like I mentioned before, their problems they have to deal with, some of them find it as a refugee of their problems. I have one of my girls in my chess team. She's like, Mister, when I get home, I just want to work on my chess puzzles because it allows me to forget about everything.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, everything that's going on at home, I don't want to know about, so I just start working on this. And yeah, she's been getting better. She's improved a lot, but I'm happy that they're finding this as a getaway instead of drugs, instead of being on the streets and doing nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me ask you, out of the 12 students you had, and I'm talking about 2015 team, where this book was based on, only one of the members was a girl. Why do you think that was?
It's extremely hard to get girls into chess. Giving it as a mental game. And I found a lot of the females, I mean, which is wrong, find themselves not be good enough for the game. And I found this through asking, especially here in our community, because they believe it's not something for them. And as soon as they start playing it, I start teaching them, then they're like, this is so simple. And what I've always told them is they're very smart and very intelligent, and they can be more successful than the guys, because they take a different approach on the board as they do in life.
Now, you also mentioned that you now have an all-girls team. Is that is that right?
Yeah. You know, after we had that one girl in our team, Lidio, we kind of saw it as not a problem, but we're like, what's going on? I analyzed everything every year, and I noticed, okay, I only have one girl. I have to do something about it, right? Yeah. So the following year, our team grew to 20 girls. So now in our team, we have approximately 20 girls. which we hope to grow next year for the following year. So we make it a constant to have that same ratio with the guys. So it continues being a team that's a well-rounded team, not just guys, but as well as females. And it's worked very good. Our girls did very well this past state and national tournament.
That's amazing. I think maybe that sparked a revolution. A lot of more girls started joining the chess team.
Absolutely. And yeah, of course, Lidio is now in high school. She's a freshman, and our girls now look up to her.
That's great. Let me talk about a phrase that I read here that you taught to your students, and I found that very interesting. And I quote, "If you don't protect the me, there is no we to worry about. The game is over." It's a very powerful phrase. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, if you don't protect me, and this is something I teach my students, I teach them that they're the main person in the board. They're the king in the board. Mm-hmm. And if they don't protect themselves in different ways, right, physically, mentally, any possible way, they can't continue in life. If they allow themselves to be caught up in drugs and any other negative things, they won't be able to continue being successful in life because it's going to cause them to slow down, or it might just terminate their life. They might end up dead. They might end up in a jail. They might end up in a hospital. So they got to learn to protect themselves. They got to learn to take care of themselves, right, as to their feelings as well, how to feel their emotions to be controlled in any type of setting. I've taught them that when they play a game of chess, their emotions have to be neutral. So they're not overly excited and they make the wrong move, or they're not too sad and they don't do the right move. And that's one of the biggest things we teach here in our chess club. And I think that's what the success comes. Because once they learn about themselves and they learn to value themselves, their self-esteem goes up. And once their self-esteem goes up, they can play a good game.
Absolutely. I remember reading from a few of your students who became overconfident in their game, and they told you, "I got this. Don't worry about it. I got this." And then a game after, they came back and with you and said, "I lost."
I believe that's one of our best student back in the day, Leo. Mm-hmm. He won state. And he went to nationals with all the confidence in the world. He was overconfident. Yeah. He's like, "I'm going to win. No one can get me." First round, he loses. So he comes out devastated. And that's what he's like, "I lost this trip." So we apply that same lesson. And I was like, you have to remain neutral. And after that, he didn't lose a single round. But, I mean, of course, he didn't have a shot for first place. But he learned his lesson in life.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I noticed that, you had 12 students. And you also had about 4 other people who helped these students, yourself included. And I saw a resemblance to a chessboard with that. For example, you had your 12 students, and it was you and Mr. Herrera, and you had Mrs. Cromer and Ms. Ansaldo. So
Ms. Ansaldo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you had pretty much a setup there, I guess. I noticed that was interesting.
Yeah. It's that's something I'm very careful with. Every single time when I start my chess semester, I pick my I can say my chaperones or my helpers or our coaches. I want to say my coaches very carefully. I got to make sure they're people that have the same intentions I do, that want to project that same type of positive energy to my kids, so that way they can feed themselves from them. My kids from my chaperones, that everything is positive around us, that there's no anger, there's no bad moments, that we treat them with respect at all times. And Mr. Herrera, he's the perfect person for my students. He's the perfect coach. He treats them with a lot of respect. He listens to them. He knows when to have fun. He's our football coach here at Henderson, so he knows how to have fun. He keeps them in shape. And then Miss Ansaldo, she was like the mom to them. So she offered that protection to them, that shoulder when they need it, especially with our girls. And Miss Cromer, she offered that high self-esteem to them. So every single person plays a special role. And then this last after that year, I added 2 of my best coaches, the Davids, I call them, David Alvarado and David Morales. These are 2 individuals who are in college right now, and they come and help out. But the way they teach is just amazing. They project all that new energy to our kids so they can win.
I see. Now, I also noticed that you use a lot of positive reinforcement towards these kids when you're teaching them.
Hmm. That's absolutely. I mean, I cannot be honest. That's probably mostly what we use, positive. I mean, I don't think they need any more negativity. They probably already experience that out there in the world. And here at school, it should be a secure place for them. And our chess club should be even more secure. I don't want them to be overconfident either, like we've talked about, but I want them to be comfortable so they can be themselves. And once they're themselves, they can think appropriately. And when they think appropriately, they can reach new levels, like the levels they're reaching right now. So everything is positive in our team. If they lose a game, well, we have to learn from our mistakes. So everything we teach her has to be positive. Yes, sir.
Did you ever have to recur to tough love in order to teach a lesson or to teach
tough love meaning?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Just as part of a strategy to get them to become more engaged. I guess I remember one of the parts where you really wanted to know if they wanted to go to the States. And you kept discouraging them and saying, no, we're not ready. And you were kind of teaching them that, and they started, it came from them that they wanted to compete. So it was doing that contrast in behavior so they could really want to achieve it.
When that happened in the beginning of the year, when I told them they weren't ready, I had always had I started the chess team. However, as you've read, it's a lot of work. It's extreme amounts of work,
yes.
And sometimes we don't have that support. So at that point, I kept pushing it backwards. I was like, you know what, we're not ready, guys. We're not ready. And that's when they themselves, they were like, you know what, we want to do this, mister. So I can honestly say these students have kept me in place. They kept me like, we want to do it. What's next? What do we have to do next? And even now, they're like, okay, mister, we had a good tournament, but what's next? After nationals, they're like, are we going to another tournament? What can we do next? What are we having in the summer? So having to resource on that, I guess like everyone once in a while, you do need that special talk with them to remind them how hard life is in reality.
Yeah.
But at all moments, keeping the positive in there and reminding them as to all the good they're doing and why they're going to be successful, no matter how hard their life is.
I see. Now, have you kept in touch with those students who are no longer in Henderson?
Absolutely. I've kept in touch with Lirio and Jose, who are now in freshmen in high school, and the other 10 are here at Henderson. They're transferring now to high school next year, and we're starting a new chess team over there at Jefferson Silva Magnet. It is a magnet school for medical, so we're very excited. We're going to have that whole new team as freshmen over there in our high school. So hopefully this dynasty continues in the high school team as well.
And who's setting that one up? I mean, are you setting it up in the high school as well, or are you? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm setting it up. I talked to their principal, and we arranged that so I can continue teaching them because I want to make sure our students continue being successful. Like I said, I treat my students with a lot of respect, and I expect everyone to do it. So everyone that's around them, I want to make sure they're doing the right thing.
I see. And how's your chess team at Henderson doing right now?
You know what? They're doing wonderful. Like I mentioned, I got these 2 new coaches, the Davids, who are amazing. And they've learned the technique. They've learned the way I teach. They learned the way how much I care about them, and they naturally care about them. So they're practically taking over my Henderson team, even though I'm there at all times, but we're now managing both teams at the same time. So now what happened is our high school kids are becoming the teachers to our Henderson kids. You get me? So now those kids are going to come down and help out our new kids that are coming in. And they can tell their story, and they can tell our kids how much they've been successful. They can talk to them about the book. They can talk to them about how everything we're creating here is real, and that will create more things for our kids.
That's great. That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. And unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for today, Mr. Ramirez. It was such an interesting interview, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. You guys have a great day.
Likewise. I've been talking with Mr. Saul Ramirez on his book, The Champion's Game. I highly recommend it. It is a very engaging and entertaining true story of 12 middle school children from El Paso who, along with their chess coach, won the National Chess Championship. I'm your host, David Hinojosa, and I want to remind you that if you didn't hear a regularly scheduled broadcast on our NPR affiliate, you can listen to this interview on our YouTube page, Good Books Radio, Strong and Cook. Thank you for listening.